Random thoughts. In this video, I'm going to read a part of Richard Barton's book, First Steps in East Africa, Exploration of Harar. And in this part, he's giving us a history of Harar, the city, and also the larger land that surrounds it, the province. And in this part, he tells us of the days when Abyssinia and the what he calls the Zayla Empire, which I interpret to be the Adal Sultanate, were in very good terms, actually, very good terms. Often when the history is told of Adal and Harar, the city, and Ethiopia or Abyssinia, it is always about the fights and the wars and the conquering of each other and the destruction. Often very little is said about the peaceful days when the two would have very good interactions. And I found this part to be very interesting. Of course, Richard Barton was a British spy and he was sent to go to Harar to collect information. And he wrote this book and it was published in the 1850s, so it's a very long time ago. He went to Harar as a Arab merchant because the Harar city or the citizens did not like to see Europeans in their city, and he managed to go in. Now, here he tells us about the history, and he gives a very detailed history of the city and also the province around it and the Dal Sultanate that ruled that part of the world for some time. He says that the province of Adia is mentioned by Makrisi as one of the 7 members of the Zayla Empire founded by the Arab invaders, who in the 7th century of our era conquered and colonized the low tract between the Red Sea and the highlands. So they say the Adia was the bigger province within which Harar was found, and Harar was its capital. This part, it might be challenged by many people. Some people might say this was not actually an invasion by the Arabs, but actually these were people who just moved to the land and were seeking refuge. Some historical documents portrayed like that. But he says that these people came and invaded that land. He says Muslim Harar exercised pernicious influence upon the fortunes of Christian Abyssinia. Now, when Harar was established, for some time it had a very good relationship with the Christian Abyssinia. And he says the allegiance claimed by the Ethiopian emperors from the Adal, the Dankali, and the Asian Somal was evaded at the remote period, and the intractable Muslims were propitiated with rich presents when they thought proper to visit the Christian court. So when these Muslims will visit the palace of the Abyssinian emperor, they usually would be given very many gifts and presents. They were well welcomed within the Abyssinian Commonwealth. And he says the Abyssinians supply the Adal with slaves. The latter return the value in rock salt. Commercial intercourse united their interest, and from war resulted injury to both people. So initially they will do business. Abyssinia will sell slaves to Adal. Adal will sell them salt and things like that. And they had common interests, and they moved together most of the time, or sometimes at least. But there were times when they went to war, and then they, of course, damaged each other. And those are the stories that we hear a lot about. He says, nevertheless, the fanatic lowlanders, propense to pillage and proselytizing, burned the Christian churches and massacred the infidels and tortured the priests until they provoked a blood feud of uncommon asperity. So according to Richard Barton, his version, he says that the people who started to create enmity are the people of Harar. That's according to him. Other documents and other people will tell a different story, that it is the Abyssinians who started the issues. We'll never know for sure because these documents, the unfortunate thing about historical documents is that they are written by people who are biased. It's just like even today. Even today, we write history with biased views. If I believe in this, then I write history or I tell history. I'm going, of course, to show the side that I favor to be the nice guys and the others the terrible guys. And the person who writes and leans towards the other way of thinking, of course, is going to portray the other people as the good guys and my side as the bad guys. That is the situation we find ourselves with when we try to investigate and interrogate the relationship between Adal and Abyssinia. Some documents will show that it is Abyssinia that started issues, was the problem, and some documents will say that it was Adal that was the problem that started issues. So in the end, we might never know actually what caused the major fallout that happened between the two Commonwealth. But from this part of Richard Barton's book, seems like there was a time, if we are going to believe him, there was a time when, and I think this is a known fact, that actually the Muslims were actually very welcomed into Abyssinia, and they were given sanctuary and they were protected, at least in the early days when they were being persecuted from elsewhere. So I don't think he's wrong or is not factual here. So there was a time when Abyssinia actually and Adal were very good friends actually. Those are my random thoughts.